Friday morning. Apologies to everyone watching that we had to push it back. As you can imagine, Mark's getting a lot of requests to talk to people. How you doing?
Yes, good mate. Very good.
Well?
Yeah. Good. Yeah, to be fair, mate, it's we had training last night, so that was interesting. But we had a great chat, and we had a committee come down for a chat, and everyone's in really good spirits, to be honest.
Good stuff. Okay, so I'll jump straight into it. I've got a few questions for you, Mark, as you can imagine. First things first, as a club, how do you feel about the decision that was announced last night?
Well, from a personal point of view, it's the single most disgraceful football situation I've been involved in 21 years. And I don't know whether we just joined the National League at a bad time, but this club, we was once part of the 𝐏𝐒𝐓 District League, where two matches got called off once for Shetland ponies invading the pitch. Okay, that was the level of football that was at, and in 1999, that's where we were. I can honestly say the governance of those divisions and coming up through the leagues, the West Sussex League, Sussex County League, the Bostik League, the governance of the National League is an absolute disgrace on all levels. As always, there'll be one or two good people involved. You can never claim that an organisation is representative of everybody. But how on earth an outcome could arrive at an outcome to pass the baton? So what they've done is, Chris, they've sought to protect all the clubs that are worried about their financial survival, and just for all the people that get very challenged online, we also supported that as well, in terms of them not playing on and not risking their status of their club. They sought to protect those clubs by bringing a vote, and then all they've done is pass the baton, Chris, to those clubs that can't afford not to continue, given their own business model and their setup. So how we've arrived at this is horrific. There's a big difference in anything between governance and leadership, and this is just governance that is absolute worst, atrocious.
Okay. Now, I guess you've touched on this already, but I'm going to ask the question. From where I'm sitting, it does feel like the National League have got this horribly wrong.
Well, it's an understatement, Chris. Yeah. I genuinely think you could get a bunch of 11-year-olds in a classroom and give them a task and they'd work it out better. It is horrific. But you know what? What we're saying here is, are they man enough? Are they strong enough to admit they've made a big mistake? A vote wasn't necessary, was it? Wasn't necessary. Nobody wanted any club to risk survival, and all the clubs I spoke to didn't want those clubs that stood to lose a lot of money commercially, or their progression. No one wanted them to suffer either. All they had to do, the National League, was consult with clubs, look for a way forward. Only yesterday, I'm looking at tweets from clubs, Maidstone yesterday, Tunbridge, clubs that voted null and void, that subsequently have made a really big effort to recruit new playing squads, and to continue in the competition whilst it's going. Why on earth the National League didn't consult when they had the problem? They had a suspension, so they could have actually used that time to consult and work through a process with each club. And if at the end of that process where they've tried to, work alongside and handhold and explain to clubs how maybe they can continue the competition, if at the end of that clubs couldn't, then no one would dispute the fact that they should be supported, no sanctions, and we see you next year. But as for this kind of like people that are bitter about clubs, you've got enough money to carry on. you know, which is just obviously extremely short-sighted. We've got commercial partners that enable us to continue. Other clubs, I'm sure we won't mind me saying, like 𝐏𝐻𝐒𝐒, he's cost cut. He has brought in players that are of a really good standard, and he wants to keep the competition going in a different way. You know, it's absolutely okay to want to be successful, you know, and anyone that says the opposite probably is a very unsuccessful person. You know, it is absolutely fine to want to keep the competition going for progression reasons, for social reasons, for community reasons, for all of those reasons. So, and I'm going around the houses here, but where they've got it wrong is that they should have consulted with clubs. By giving clubs a vote, they created a divide, and I can't believe that they would sit there today going, well, we've done the right thing. Look at the above the line noise. I mean, look at it. It's unbelievable, right? How many chairmen like me had to sit there in the EFL during the summer and bang on about this, that and the other to get their point across? Nobody. Great leadership, worked to joint objectives, found a way through their problems. The National League above the line, the proof's in the pudding. It is above the line profile, blown to bits. Categorically the worst run league in the country, needs disbanding at the top. And guess what, Chris? Just like many people in football governance, it won't be their fault, and they won't man up and admit it. They won't do it. What they'll do is give you another fine, you know, or something like that. Well, this time they've got a big problem. So, listen, let me explain what I think is explicitly wrong with the... So they shouldn't have done a vote in the first place. And then, and this is incredible, clearly of the mindset, the normal constitutional vote would mean 1 vote per National League club and 8 between North and South. Clearly in the mindset that if they put the vote out with the normal format, it will drive a majority to continue, because they know they've got a majority of National League clubs that want to continue. They then seek to change the resolution or constitutional voting, allowing 1 club, 1 vote per club across the entire member clubs. Okay? By default, that means if I'm a National League team and I vote for that, bearing in mind as a National League team I'm in the knowledge because I've seen all the dockets of 16 clubs that don't want to play South and North, I then know that if I vote to change the voting, I'm massively more likely to cut the legs off of step 2 and therefore protect my status. So if you look at the votes announced, 21 votes for resolution 1 from 21 tabled. Every single one said let's change the way we vote. Yet 7 of those didn't want to continue. So there was clubs that just went, thank you very much, I'll drive a bus through that gap. Now, you could call it disingenuous, you could call it corrupt, you could call it, or is it just unintelligent? Or is it just bad leadership? I don't know which one, but whatever the weather, you would be hard pushed as an intelligent person to understand how creating that resolution did not create a conflict of interest for those voting in the National League. Okay? Ironically, they've made their own division a non-competition. So, Woking now, with no relegation, may play an academy, while Stockport play their, £2 million a year team and win 19-0. So, I'm not sure I know for certain the EFL will look at this and think, what is going on now, right? But let me tell you, so the first thing with the voting was the resolution 1. Stinks. Attracted a conflict of interest. The second bit is not breaking out South and North. So what they're saying is that you can be your business can be restricted, which is what this is about, off the back of a decision made by a non-competing division. Right? So here's the headline point. Right? From the 66 member clubs, the majority of those 66 wanted to play. From the South, the majority of the South wanted to play. Yet the South have got to stop. It is as horrific decision making and tabling of a resolution as you will ever see. They would be wise to put their hand up, because I've already seen, I know of at least 4 legal processes now underway. They'd be wise to put their hand up really quickly and make a solution here, because they are digging a gigantic hole. And of course, what they've done so far with the hole is try to dig their way out of it with governance. But that doesn't work in this situation. It's too unprecedented. So the passing of the baton has gone from the clubs that we had to protect, and when we accept that, to the clubs that desperately want to continue for both commercial reasons and competitive reasons. You know, that's how it works. Yeah? What sort of club would we be, right, if we didn't want to progress, succeed? You know, listen, do I think we was going to win promotion this year? I think with half a season to go, no one could ever call that at all. Do I think we could have a great season, finish in the playoffs? Probably yes. Do I think we'd worked hard to assemble a team that could compete? Absolutely. Do I think our partners invested in just that? Absolutely as well. So we're not going to apologise for that, you know. But foremost, we want football for our community as well. You know, that's what we want it for, you know, as well, Chris. It's important. So I'm hoping I'm making my points clear. You know, it's not one that needs selling to anybody. You know, anyone with, you know, anything up here will understand that this is unjust for sure.
Absolutely. And just I want to move on to the National League statement that was issued yesterday. Now, one reference in there, and I quote, "The board will take the resolution outcome to the Football Association for ratification. This will include dialogue regarding promotion and relegation." What do you make of that statement?
Just speechless. Just speechless. Like, I understand that is this a, you know, this is probably a situation whereby, to me, the inference I draw from that is, well, we made a mistake maybe. We need to find a way of helping these clubs out. I'm calling upon them. I'm not going to pull any punches as, you know, chairman of our club. And I know that, by the way, you know, listen, we speak about it publicly. We keep people engaged, informed. I know people appreciate that. And by the way, we have way more support than the odd loser that comments because they're bored, etc. But what I would say is that there are, you know, an awful lot of clubs out there right now banging their own drums in different ways. This is a big issue, a massive issue for the National League, right? Just think about it. The clubs that wanted to uphold the integrity of the competition, continue at all costs, and wanted to do their best to work with the competition are the ones most affected with the current decision. Just think about that for a minute, right? So what the board need to do today, in between scones, is actually say, we got this wrong. We got this wrong. We didn't actually fix the problem. We just moved the problem. We need to keep promotion, relegation. I think they need to put forward a resolution for the leagues to continue with reduced teams, and give all the teams that have pulled out the opportunity to re-elect to continue, because I know clubs that null and voided that will continue now they've worked out as to how they can. Give teams opportunity to conclude, and then we'll see the season out. And yes, is it the perfect situation? No, you're not going to get a perfect situation, Chris, but what you can get is the best of a bad bunch, continuing making sure the clubs have got their commercials intact, and nothing is wasted. What about the 11 million quid? I just ignored that. You know, 11 million pound. Just ignored it. Like, given to clubs. You know, my point is, I'm not in the camp of show me where you spent your 90 grand. Clubs needed that money, right? But I am in the camp of that's a reason to do everything possible to keep the competition going. So, the National League Board, right, need to make sure in between their afternoon tea that they put their hand up, show some leadership, prowess, accept they got it wrong. A bit like if a football manager plays a back three when it should be a back four, right? Put your hand up. What did you do wrong? How are we going to fix this? And they've got to come up with a solution that works for all member clubs. And they've got to accept it might not be ideal by the letter of the law in terms of like reduced clubs, etc. But they need to really quickly do that. Because if they do, from where I'm standing, all of their problems have gone away. So the clubs that can't afford to continue are protected. The clubs that want to continue are continuing. Promotion, relegation, National League, then work out where that fits for them, where that sits for them guys, and we move forward. I'd be surprised if the EFL didn't support a position where the league have done everything possible to keep the competition going. So I don't want them to let emotion get in the way, because they're getting emotion from me. Of course they are. They've had an email from me this morning. Our lawyers wrote to them at midnight last night, outlining our position. They're getting a collaborative collection of letters from the all 19 clubs by lunch. On top of that, there's other clubs with their own bespoke legal action. So, just to be clear, absolutely fine with the clubs that don't want to play. Okay, so if you're a supporter of one of those, read the small print. We get it. We're fine. Understand, and we could be in your position in 10 years if this ever happened again, and we'd want to be supported as well. No problem. What we're looking for is a football understanding and a business understanding of why we want to continue, Chris. And we now need the board to act. And if the board try to go down the governance route, I think that's a dangerous route to go down, given that the voting structure is extremely suspect.
Okay, now you've mentioned previously that the club is exploring all avenues, as you just touched on, know, including those of a legal nature. Where is that side of things currently at as it stands?
Well, we are exploring the. We are now essentially going to try and intercept the ratification through the FA. That is, to my understanding, the options that are going to be available to all of these clubs' legal teams. So the National League needs to get this approved. The FA have come in for a lot of criticism through the government of their overall governance of football. Let's hope this is an opportunity for the FA to actually go, stop right there. That was not wholly the right thing to do. The way you structured the vote, the way you didn't split the South-North vote. But it doesn't have to get to that part, Chris. Hopefully they can, look at their board meeting. They can say very quickly, we're putting forward resolutions that are going to enable everybody to move forward and take themselves out of they're literally digging a massive hole. For all the football people that have got things to say and comment, not one of them would disagree that the National League are abominable. They'd all agree on that much. So we are going to pursue what we can, the same as the other legal team will. We're not pretending for 1 minute we're going to be at the High Court tomorrow spending 400 grand and all the rest of it. What we are going to do is, upon advice given from our QC, we will explore it as much as we can. But I would like to think that it's not necessary. I'd rather spend that money on our youth team, our community projects that we invest in. But, we have to invest in action such as this because it also protects a lot of revenue, a lot of commercial activity. So it's a business move. And if we're unsuccessful, we are. That's the bottom line. What sort of leader would I be? What sort of club would we be if we don't go down, without a fight? And that's really how we see it.
Okay, and final question from me, Mark. It's quite a broad one, but I'm going to ask it.
Yeah.
I mean, what impact will this have on Dorking Rovers as a club?
Zero in terms of in terms of us for what we stand for. Absolutely zero. Did this squat. If we have to recover, you know, the actual fundamentally a huge financial implication of the league finishing, but actually emotionally and everything else, not a single impact. This club and everyone around it we're really, you know, extremely proud of our history. We've had 12 promotions in 20 seasons. You know, we're a football team that wants to compete and wants to better ourselves, and we do it all in the right way. You know, at the point that the table stopped, if it did, and I'd like to think it's going to change, but you know, we've had a great time. We've done lots of things well, and we've grown off the field, and it'll just be a hurdle that we step up to. We won't walk away from it. We'll just step up to the challenge. It will go as chapter, you know, 22 in the book, and that's where it'll be. And we'll look at what's good about it and what we've learned, and we'll move forward. So you know, as a club, we've got great people around us, and you know, we'll all get on with it. We're not going to wallow in self-pity. Quite the opposite. You know, we're more likely, I said to the lads last night, to get a trip to Ibiza with 40 of us and buy a fake trophy for a laugh. You know, like, you know, we'll brush it off. Chris. You know, in the bigger picture. But if you don't talk out about things, who's going to? There's a reason that these resolutions get tabled and that football stinks to the core and has for years. You know, because so many things happen behind closed doors. So, you know, this is how we do things. This is how we operate. And if we come up short, then we come up short. But we'll certainly pursue every avenue and go down fighting. That's the plan.
Okay, Mark. Well, look, thanks for the update.
Cheers, mate.
I appreciate it. Obviously, for everyone watching, any more news or developments, we promise to let you know as soon as possible. So, cheers,
mate.